Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your standing ovation, but you do understand you only make me more nervous than I was before. I wrote down my speech, and I wanted to start with the polite and common. It's a great privilege to be here to speak at Hillsdale College National Leadership Seminar, blah, blah, blah. And then I got this incredible opportunity to sit next to a man who, I have to admit, reminds me of the pictures of Father Christmas. Maybe a little thinner and a little smaller. And he gives me this wonderful Christmas present in the middle of May. I just got myself a scholarship. And I've been told by Father Christmas that he listened to me speak in New York, and there were, in the politest way that he can do it, holes in my knowledge. He's going to fill them. And if I get an A, Dr. Ayaan is going to put $1,000 into the Ayaan Hirsi Ali Foundation. And I think that's worth working for. And I'm supposed to learn about the American Constitution, the history of the American Constitution, American literature and English, all in just 1 month. That, I am told, is how intensely you work at Hillsdale. I'm in for it. I was in a panic before I came here because your seminar sent me a list of the former speakers, and it went like Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, and my friend and colleague Lynn Cheney is here. And I was like, gosh, I can't do this. But I'm here to talk to you about, I was asked to talk about the clash of civilizations, not because I'm shaped by my political experience or my literary experience, unlike presidents and prime ministers, like Mrs. Thatcher and President Reagan. These are individuals who were elected on the merits of their political acumen and succeeded as decision makers in very dramatic conflicts because of their exceptional personal character, their clear visions on what they stood for and what they were against, on their excellent skills to work towards the objectives they had set for themselves. I was a politician in Holland for 3.5 years, and I know that it takes courage and perseverance and a certain kind of toughness to achieve political goals in a democratic society. But in sharing my views with you on the conflict between Islam and the West, I rely not so much on experience as a politician or a leader in the classical sense of running an organization, whether it's government or private, but on my personal experience, my observations, and on the observations and insights of those who have studied this conflict for years and who have left us their work, even if it's from centuries ago. And there are holes in my knowledge in that. Last year, my publisher, Simon & Schuster's Free Press, contacted Christopher Hitchens, British-American publicist and journalist, and asked him to write a foreword to the paperback of my memoir, Infidel. And in the first paragraph of his foreword, Hitchens addresses what he calls the modern world's most imposing new realities: cross-border and cross-cultural migration. He interviewed me for that foreword, and then I asked him, what is it? Can you please tell me, what is it in Europeans and Americans that fascinates them about my life? And he said, being forthright and just being himself, because he said, because you are an embodiment of this cross-border and cross-cultural migration. You have crossed all these borders, become a successful member of Western society, paid the price of rejection, you adhere to the principles you chose for yourself, and this is Christopher's line, and you are still sane. I appreciate his forthrightness, or I would not accept his friendship. What he was saying essentially, as I took it, was, Ayaan, you have no exceptional qualities as a scholar, as an artist, a musician, you don't excel in physics, you fled from politics, because when you saw how much intrigue was involved, this is me interpreting him, he didn't say this. You fled from politics, not an athlete, not a doctor. So what is my claim to fame or infamy? It's only that I crossed borders, crossed cultures, and didn't end up in a mental asylum? Well, he said, you made a choice between the values you were brought up with and those of the country you adopted, and you don't seem as conflicted as most modern Western Muslims. And each time I hear the conflict between Islam and the West and take note of attempts at resolving them, I remember one of my experiences as an interpreter in Holland. I was called one day to an elementary school in The Hague to translate for a couple whose 7-year-old firstborn son, named Mohammed, had beaten another child, a native Dutch white child. I forgot this child's name, so I'll just call him Mark. Mohammed and Mark's parents were upset, felt misunderstood, had been yelling at each other, one set in Somali, the other set in Dutch. And now the school was trying to resolve the conflict by bringing in a translator, me. The teacher, looking very serious at Mohammed's parents, said, Mohammed is very aggressive. He hit Mark, he kicked him, he punched him in the face and threatened to kill him. 7-year-old. Mohammed's mother says, it's Mark's fault. He called him a bad name, poked his tongue at him, and made fun of him. The teacher went on to say, yeah, but it's Mohammed who hit him first. Mohammed's father and mother cried in unison, of course, you don't wait to be hit first. We taught him to punch any child in the face who so much as gives him a wrong look. The Dutch teacher, now stunned and almost speechless, it's the first time I came to understand what it meant to look pale. She looked at the parents and cried in Dutch. I hope there are some people who, if you're not of Dutch origin, at least understand it. And she said, je voedt hem op dat geweld de oplossing is. Are you breeding him to believe that violence is the way to solve conflict? Given the mutual bewilderment of both of my clients at each other, I asked if I could step out of my neutral role as an interpreter of text alone and venture into cultural interpretation, translate the context. I explained to the parents that they were no longer in Somalia, but in Holland now. The way to resolve conflict was by learning to talk. Talk till you drop. Talk, mediate, avoid each other, or go to court, where a lot of talking is done by people called lawyers who represent you and your interests. And all the talking ends up in a settlement pronounced by a judge who talks. And I have a judge friend there, and I know he talks. No special skills were required in punching in the face, no kicking, no biting, no stabbing or shooting. And beside the curriculum of math, language, and geography, kids were taught how to develop the skills of talking one's way out of problems, one's way into college, one's way into jobs, one's way into love, and one's way out of love, and so on. To the Dutch teacher, I explained that in Somalia, strong clans teach their children, both boys and girls, how to be aggressive. My older cousin used to take me to fighting practice, not football practice, after school. I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I was encouraged to pick a fight with a classmate who was encouraged to pick a fight with me. We poked our tongues at each other, made faces at each other, and called each other names like, "You are accursed, you are a coward, shameful, dishonorable, kinterley, you with the long hanging clitoris." And then, surrounded by cheering older relatives, we went at each other. We kicked and scratched and took bites at each other. We wrestled till we were full of bruises, our little dresses torn, our knees scraped from falling. You were defeated if you gave up first, or if you cried, or if you ran away. And in all 3 cases, you would undergo a severe verbal and physical beating from your fighting coach. This anecdote is one of numerous clashes on different levels that I witnessed between Westerners and people with whom I share a tribal or religious background. And by this, ladies and gentlemen, I do not want to create the impression in your mind that all people from Muslim countries or tribal societies are aggressive. They are not. Despite Hitchens' remark about adopting Western values and remaining sane, I am not the only one.